Hello, online arts community. Welcome to Fleetwood-Jourdain Theatre's Staying Creative in collaboration with Piven Theater Workshop, a journey through the history of Black theater, a series with me, Professor Bria Walker. Today, we're going to talk about the iconic Black Shakespearean actor and tragedian, Ira Aldridge. He was born in New York City in 1807 and died in Poland in 1867 at the age of 60. He was a brilliant and popular tragedian during the mid-19th century. He fell out of notoriety after his death, but thankfully, his legacy has made a resurgence in recent decades. Aldridge is one of only 33 people in the world to be honored with a bronze plaque at the Shakespeare Memorial Theatre in Stratford-upon-Avon. Ira Aldridge was the son of a minister and attended New York's African Free School, which had been established by the New York Manumission Society to educate the city's Black community. While he was a student, he had his theater debut with the African Company at the African Grove Theatre in New York City. The African Theater, or the African Company, was established by free Blacks around 1821, and the African Grove Theatre was the first theater in the U.S. that catered to and was managed by African Americans. It was founded and organized by William A. Brown, and the company manager was James Hewlett. It is believed that one of Aldridge's first tastes of theater was probably at the now defunct Park Theater in Manhattan, where, from the balcony, he and fellow company member James Hewlett would watch European actors portray various Shakespearean roles. The African Company's first production was Shakespeare's Richard III. Fun fact, in 1994, playwright Carlisle Brown wrote the play, The African Company Presents Richard III. It's a beautiful take on the company and their efforts to mount their own production of Richard III. Now, back to the 1800s. In 1823, the company put on the first play written by an African American called The Drama of King Shotaway. It was written by company member and founder William A. Brown. Unfortunately, this play is now lost. It was a historical drama based on the Black Carib Revolt of 1796 against English and French settlers on the island of St. Vincent. While a member of the African Company, Ira Aldridge made his acting debut in Richard Brinsley Sheridan's Pizarro. He also played Romeo in their production of Romeo and Juliet. Keep in mind, he was only 14 or 15 at the time. Of the theaters in New York City run mostly by African Americans and primarily attended by African American audiences, the African Company quickly became the most renowned. But even with their successes, they faced many hardships. Shortly after their opening, the African Grove Theater was forced to close by city officials, supposedly over noise complaints. So, they relocated to Bleecker Street, but this move took the theater away from its core Black audience and placed it closer to several larger, more upmarket theaters. Smaller audiences, coupled with resentment and competition from its predominantly white neighbors, soon led to financial difficulties. And all of these problems were intensified by almost constant harassment from police, city officials, and intolerant local residents. And unfortunately, the company only lasted 3 years, and in 1823 closed after a mysterious fire. In 1824, at the age of 16, Aldridge had had enough of the constant discrimination he was facing in America and emigrated to Liverpool. This would be a major turning point in Aldridge's life. Aldridge decided to board a ship to Liverpool and became a steward on the ship in order to help pay for his passage. And while on this ship, Aldridge ran into British actor and producer James Wallach. Now, the two of them had met months earlier in New York, so when they happened to run into each other again, Wallach offered Aldridge an opportunity to be his personal attendant while aboard the ship. Once they arrived in Liverpool, Aldridge continued to work for Wallach and made numerous contacts in the theater world. Aldridge moved to the UK at a somewhat auspicious time. Britain was in the midst of the Industrial Revolution, more and more theaters were being erected, and the slave trade had already been outlawed, so an abolitionist society was beginning to formulate. These combined factors may have made it more possible for Aldridge to begin a career as an actor. There was still prejudice and racism, don't get me wrong, but there was opportunity. So, in May of 1825, at the age of 17, Aldridge made his debut at the Royalty Theatre in London's East End, becoming the first Black man in Britain to play Othello. Critics were won over by his performance. They were a little unsure on how to take a, quote, gentleman of color lately arrived from America, end quote, but they loved his performance nonetheless. Aldridge slowly worked his way up and through the London theater scene. His Othello later transferred to the Royal Coburg Theatre in 1825. He had a lead role in a stage adaptation of Afraben's Oroonoko, played Aaron the Moor in Shakespeare's Titus Andronicus, and he showed his versatility by playing a bumbling butler in the 18th century comedy The Padlock. Before long, he is receiving top billing as the renowned African tragedian, the first African-American actor to establish himself outside of America. In 1833, Aldridge made his debut as Othello at the Theatre Royal Covent Garden in London. Even though Britain was more accepting of blacks and boasted an abolitionist society, there were some who were not on board with a black man gracing one of their most prestigious stages. Some of the reviews were scathing. Campaigns were even launched to remove him from the stage, but in the end, fortunately, they didn't work. Aldridge took The Padlock and Othello on tour throughout Britain and gained many new fans. He even became manager of the Coventry Theatre in 1828. This made him the first black manager of a British theatre. Between performances, he lectured on the evils of slavery and gave his support to the abolitionist movement. Aldridge also toured Ireland and was welcomed with open arms. By the 1830s, Aldridge was touring Britain and Ireland with a self-written one-man show where he mixed dramatic monologues and Shakespearean text with songs, stories from his life, and lectures on abolitionism. As an antidote to the blackface minstrel shows that were popular at the time, he also began donning whiteface to portray roles such as Shylock, Macbeth, and Richard III. In the 1850s, his popularity grew far and wide. He assembled a troupe of actors and set out on a tour of Europe. His popularity even reached royalty. The King of Prussia awarded him a gold medal of art and science, and in Saxe-Meiningen, now part of Germany, he was given the title of Chevalier Baron of Saxony. Aldridge was now in his late 50s. The Civil War was over, and the desire to return to the U.S. to perform was extremely attractive. So he organized a 100-date tour of the U.S. Fortunately, this tour would not be in the cards for Aldridge. During a tour in Poland a couple of weeks before the U.S. tour was to commence, Aldridge, at the age of 60, fell ill from a lung condition and passed away. Aldridge was a treasure to us all. The work he accomplished will forever be an inspiration for performers throughout the ages. May his legacy live on. Tune in Wednesday as we turn another page on the history of Black theater.